my name is Gilbert Ambler, and I am a firearms law and criminal defense attorney. I want to start, as many of the other speakers today have, by thanking you for your participation. The way I see it, our rights are only as good as those who are willing to protect them, and your engagement on days like today is critical to ensure that our God-given and constitutionally protected rights are enjoyed for generations to come. There are two important methods of protecting your firearm rights that I wish to discuss today. The first method that I want to discuss is a proactive and often collective method of protection. This encompasses activities such as donating and joining groups like Virginia Citizens Defense League and Gun Owners of America. What you are taking part in today falls into this category. This is an important way to make sure that rights are preserved and something that too few in the firearms community regularly partake in. So thank you for taking time today. If the right to possess firearms is a constitutional right that really matters to you, then you need to show up for events and opportunities to support it. You need to encourage your friends to show up for opportunities to support it. Do not take it for granted. Another important way to support the right is through engaging new people in the firearms community. Make the shooting range an environment that new people feel comfortable in. Offer words of support. Invite new gun owners to go shooting. There have been record numbers of new gun owners over the past several years. If you know a new gun owner, don't let them buy a gun and simply let it collect dust in a gun safe somewhere. Engage them. Interact with them. Bring them into the fold. To be an effective, proactive advocate for gun rights, you should also be paying attention to lawsuits. Lawsuits, or civil cases against over-encroaching gun laws, are expensive and time-consuming, and unfortunately, with so many different governmental bodies, including localities, states, agencies, and even federal governments, all passing firearm laws and regulations, there is a never-ending shortage of issues that are deserving of a civil suit. So you can help by being proactive, by joining organizations that do this important work, and by supporting them monetarily. During the course of the day, you have heard and you will hear from leaders of organizations that do a tremendous job organizing, lobbying, and at times even suing to protect our firearm rights. I hope you take what they have to say to heart. And all of this is important, but it is not the method of protecting your rights that I want to focus on today. The method of protecting rights that I want to focus on, and that far too many gun owners fail to consider, is the defensive fight for your gun rights. What do I mean by this? Well, like it or not, courts have made it clear that the right to keep and bear arms is not unlimited. And as a criminal defense attorney, I far too frequently come into contact with those who have lost or are well on their way to losing gun rights due to their involvement in the criminal justice system. The easiest way to avoid losing your rights in the criminal justice system is to avoid being in the system. Avoid altercations. Don't go to stupid places with stupid people and do stupid things. If something is starting to escalate, walk away. Actively practice avoidance. The old adage that the best fight is the one that never happens is absolutely true. I tell people all the time that although I am prepared to use a firearm to defend myself and my family, I pray that I never have to. Next, you need to be a well-educated gun owner. Unfortunately, I regularly find people who think that their actions with a firearm are lawful, and they then get crushed in the legal system. They get crushed learning that they are actually on the wrong side of the law in Virginia. Keep in mind, laws change in every state, and what might be a lawful use of a firearm in another state may be very unlawful here in Virginia. By the same token, what's legal here in Virginia might be very illegal up the road in a state like Maryland. So take the time to educate yourself on the law. Now, for the sake of clarity, I am a firm believer that the Constitution means that the government should not be able to force you to take a class to own or even to carry a firearm. Now, that's a whole nother issue. But I simultaneously believe that a responsible gun owner is a well-educated gun owner. Intertwined with the concept of being well-educated is the idea that you must take time to ensure that you are learning from an appropriate source. There are many wonderful educational resources on the internet, but also some very, very misleading or even outright wrong resources available on the internet. One of the organizations whose members I represent from time to time is U.S. Law Shield. U.S. Law Shield has spent substantial time and effort making legal seminars available for cheap or even free to the public. Take advantage of resources like that to learn from firearm attorneys about what you can and cannot do with a weapon. Finally, while the Second Amendment is a critical firearms right, if you are ever involved in an incident involving anything from drawing your firearm all the way to actually discharging your firearm, remember to utilize your other rights. You need to invoke your Fifth Amendment right to silence and your Sixth Amendment right to counsel. When police Mirandize you, they warn you that what you say can and will be used against you, and they absolutely mean that. Frequently, the single biggest piece of evidence that is used to convict a gun owner is their own statements. And although the police officers showing up on the scene may be friendly towards you and might be friendly towards gun rights, at the end of the day, the prosecutors, the ones actually prosecuting the case, may have a very different view of firearms. And remember, the prosecutors are going to be the ones putting this case before a judge or a jury. So you need to keep your mouth shut and do not make your situation any worse. Now, on the subject of Miranda rights, which are those warnings that police give you, it is worth noting that you do not have to wait until the warnings are actually read to you to invoke your rights. After an incident where there is a risk of arrest, such as after a shooting or even after a brandishing, when police officers arrive, you should affirmatively invoke your rights. Now, I'm not going to give you a script to remember, but I want you to remember the concept. You need to specifically request a lawyer, and you need to specifically say that you want to remain silent until you have had the opportunity to speak to that lawyer. And then you have to do the difficult thing, which is actually keeping your mouth shut until you get in touch with a competent attorney. You can be polite to officers when you're invoking these rights, but it is critical that you are firm. You need to put your foot down. You are not talking to the police about the incident until you have an attorney with you. I want you to remember that concept. Of course, you then need to find an attorney. On firearm cases, I believe it is important that you have counsel that is not only experienced in criminal defense, but also in firearms law. There are plenty of wonderful criminal defense attorneys out there who may miss an important issue simply because they don't understand firearms enough to know what to look for. On the other side, there are some great firearms attorneys who have never practiced any criminal defense, never done any criminal defense work. Your goal when you seek counsel should be to find someone who strikes a healthy balance between being a competent criminal defense attorney and between being someone who actually understands firearms. At the most basic level, when you think about this, someone who is a great criminal defense attorney but does not understand firearms might be looking for shell casings in a situation where a revolver was used in the shooting. And of course, the shell casings in that situation still going to be inside the firearm. So that's a very, very basic example, but a good example of why you need an attorney who's going to innately understand what issues to be looking for in a firearms case. If you have further questions about invoking your rights or about how to handle one of these situations, please contact my office. You can reach my office at 540-550-4236, and that's Ambler Law Offices at 540-550-4236. Thank you so much for your participation in Lobby Day. It's an important thing that you're taking part of, and of course, please stay safe.